boyfriend moved in with me, quit his job, then told everyone I was the problem. I walked into my own apartment and realized I felt like a stranger in it because the person I trusted had turned it into his personal free ride. The phone in my hand felt heavier than it should have. The text message thread glowed on the screen, and every word made my stomach twist tighter. Dude, you've got it made. Free place, free food, and she even does your laundry. This chick is basically your personal maid. The response from my boyfriend's number made me want to throw up. I know, right? She thinks we're building something together. It's perfect. I stood in my kitchen that I paid for, in my apartment that I paid for, reading proof that the man sleeping in my bed saw me as nothing more than unpaid help. 6 months. 6 months of making excuses for him. 6 months of wondering why I felt so drained all the time. 6 months of being told I was overthinking when I asked why he wasn't contributing to groceries or rent. The answer was right here in black and white, saved forever on his phone like a smoking gun. My hands shook as I scrolled up through more messages. She actually asked me about getting a job yesterday. I told her I'm still recovering from the stress of quitting my last one. She bought it completely. Another message. The trick is to make everything seem like it's for the relationship. I told her living together would make us stronger. Now she pays for everything and I don't lift a finger. The apartment around me looked different now. The dishes in the sink that I always ended up washing, the groceries I bought every week without him offering to split the cost, the laundry basket full of his clothes that somehow always ended up in my washing machine, the couch he sprawled on all day while I worked from home, earning the money that kept this place running. I had been played, completely, thoroughly played. The front door opened, and I heard his keys hit the table. "Babe, I'm back," he called out, his voice carrying that casual confidence I used to find attractive. Now it just sounded entitled. "Did you pick up those groceries?" "I'm starving." I didn't answer. I couldn't. The phone screen showed another message timestamp from just 2 hours ago. "She's at work, so I'm ordering takeout on her credit card." She left it on the counter like always. This is the life, man. My credit card. He had been using my credit card. "Hello? Are you here?" His footsteps moved through the living room toward the kitchen. I could hear him opening the fridge. Probably. My boyfriend moved in with me, quit his job, then told everyone I was the problem. I walked into my own apartment and realized I felt like a stranger in it because the person I trusted had turned it into his personal free ride. The phone in my hand felt heavier than it should have. The text message thread glowed on the screen, and every word made my stomach twist tighter. Dude, you've got it made. Free place, free food, and she even does your laundry. This chick is basically your personal maid. The response from my boyfriend's number made me want to throw up. I know, right? She thinks we're building something together. It's perfect. I stood in my kitchen that I paid for, in my apartment that I paid for, reading proof that the man sleeping in my bed saw me as nothing more than unpaid help. 6 months. 6 months of making excuses for him. 6 months of wondering why I felt so drained all the time. 6 months of being told I was overthinking when I asked why he wasn't contributing to groceries or rent. The answer was right here in black and white, saved forever on his phone like a smoking gun. My hands shook as I scrolled up through more messages. She actually asked me about getting a job yesterday. I told her I'm still recovering from the stress of quitting my last one. She bought it completely. Another message. The trick is to make everything seem like it's for the relationship. I told her living together would make us stronger. Now she pays for everything and I don't lift a finger. The apartment around me looked different now. The dishes in the sink that I always ended up washing, the groceries I bought every week without him offering to split the cost, the laundry basket full of his clothes that somehow always ended up in my washing machine, the couch he sprawled on all day while I worked from home, earning the money that kept this place running. I had been played, completely, thoroughly played. The front door opened, and I heard his keys hit the table. "Babe, I'm back," he called out, his voice carrying that casual confidence I used to find attractive. Now it just sounded entitled. "Did you pick up those groceries?" "I'm starving." I didn't answer. I couldn't. The phone screen showed another message timestamp from just 2 hours ago. "She's at work, so I'm ordering takeout on her credit card." She left it on the counter like always. This is the life, man. My credit card. He had been using my credit card. "Hello? Are you here?" His footsteps moved through the living room toward the kitchen. I could hear him opening the fridge, probably looking for something I had bought and prepared. The sound of him making himself at home in my space, using my things, made my skin crawl. I quickly screenshot the messages. The evidence was too important to risk losing. My finger moved fast, capturing every damning conversation. There were dozens of them. Months of him bragging to his friend about how he had found the perfect setup, how I was easy to manage and totally clueless. "There you are." He appeared in the kitchen doorway, already reaching for the leftover pizza in my fridge. "Rough day at work? You look stressed. Maybe you should take a break from overthinking everything." Overthinking. The word he always used when I tried to bring up money or responsibility or the future. The word that made me question my own judgment and back down from conversations I needed to have. Now I knew it was just another tool in his manipulation kit. "We need to talk," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. He paused with a slice of pizza halfway to his mouth. "About what? You're not going to start that whole thing about me getting a job again, are you? I told you I need time to figure out what I want to do next. You rushing me isn't helping." I held up the phone. "About this." His eyes focused on the screen, and I watched his expression change. The casual confidence drained away, replaced by something sharper, something calculating. "What are you doing with my phone?" "It was on the counter. You got a message and I thought it might be important." The lie came easily. I had actually found it under a pile of his clothes that I was about to wash, because of course I was about to do his laundry. "Again, you have no right to go through my private messages." He set down the pizza and stepped toward me. "That's a violation of trust." "Trust?" The word came out louder than I intended. "You want to talk about trust? Give me my phone back." He held out his hand, but I clutched it tighter. "Is this real? This conversation with your friend about how you're using me?" His jaw tensed. "You're taking things out of context. You don't understand guy talk." "Guy talk?" I scrolled to another message and read it out loud. "She's so worried about being a good girlfriend that she'll do anything to make me happy. I don't even have to ask anymore. She just handles everything automatically." I looked up at him. "What context makes that okay?" "You're being dramatic. Those messages don't mean anything." But his voice had changed. The easy dismissal was still there, but underneath it was something else. Panic maybe, or anger that his game had been discovered. 6 months, I said. 6 months of you living here rent-free. 6 months of me buying all the groceries, doing all the cleaning, making all the plans. 6 months of you telling me we were building something together. We are building something together. You're just too insecure to see it. Too insecure? The words hit like a slap. Reading messages where you brag about using me for free housekeeping makes me insecure? I never said that, but his eyes shifted away from mine. I scrolled to another message and held it up. Free place, free food, and she even does your laundry. This chick is basically your personal maid. I looked at him. Your words. The silence stretched between us. Outside, traffic hummed hummed past my windows. In my neighbors' apartments, people were probably making dinner together, sharing responsibilities, building actual relationships. Here in my kitchen, I was holding proof that the man I had fallen for saw me as nothing more than a service provider. So what happens now? He finally asked. His tone had shifted again, becoming almost businesslike. You going to kick me out over some stupid messages? The casualness of the question shocked me. No apology, no denial, no attempt to explain or fix anything. Just a calculation about whether his free ride was coming to an end. That's when I knew. This wasn't a misunderstanding or a moment of poor judgment. This was exactly who he was, and exactly what he had planned from the beginning. I had never been his girlfriend. I was his easy way out. Yes, I said, surprised by how calm my voice sounded. I am. He laughed. Actually laughed. Good luck with that. It hadn't always been like this. 4 months ago, I thought I had met someone special. We matched on a dating app, and his profile seemed perfect. Ambitious marketing coordinator at a mid-sized company, loved hiking and cooking, looking for something serious. His photos showed a guy with an easy smile and kind eyes. When we texted, he asked thoughtful questions about my work as a graphic designer and remembered details from our conversations. Our first date lasted 6 hours. We met for coffee at 2 in the afternoon and ended up at a restaurant for dinner, talking about everything from travel dreams to family stories. He seemed genuinely interested in my life, my goals, my thoughts on random topics. When he walked me to my car, he said, I haven't felt this connected to someone in years. I floated home that night thinking I might have finally found someone who got me. The early weeks felt like a fairy tale. He brought me flowers on our second date, not because it was expected, but because he had seen me admire some at the farmer's market during our first weekend together. He texted good morning every day and actually wanted to hear about my projects at work. When I got stressed about a difficult client, he showed up at my apartment with takeout and listened while I vented. You're so passionate about your work, he said one evening, watching me edit layouts on my laptop. I love how dedicated you are to making everything perfect. My friends were impressed. Becca, my closest friend since college, said she had never seen me so happy. He actually listens when you talk, she pointed out over drinks one Friday. That's rarer than you think. My mom liked him too, which was saying something. She was notoriously picky about the guys I dated, but when I brought him to Sunday dinner after 6 weeks of dating, she pulled me aside afterward. He's thoughtful, she said, and he clearly adores you. He did seem to adore me. He complimented my cooking, my apartment, my sense of style. He said I was the most organized person he knew, and that being with me made him want to be better. When I mentioned feeling insecure about something, he was quick to reassure me. When I had a bad day, he knew exactly what to say to make me feel supported. Looking back, I can see how calculated it all was, but at the time, it felt like love. The job complaint started around week 8. His boss was unreasonable, he said. The company culture was toxic. His coworkers were lazy, and he was doing everyone else's work. He came to my place after work looking exhausted, ranting about how underappreciated he was. You're so lucky to work for yourself, he said, watching me finish up a logo design. No corporate politics, no backstabbing coworkers. You have real freedom. I sympathized. I had worked in toxic environments before becoming freelance, and I knew how draining they could be. When he talked about wanting to quit, I encouraged him to start looking for something better. You deserve to be happy at work, I told him. Life's too short to spend 40 hours a week miserable. That's when he started talking about his dream of starting his own business. Marketing consulting, he said. He had so many ideas, so many contacts who would hire him. He just needed time to build it properly instead of rushing into something that wouldn't work. The problem is, he said one night, lying in my bed after we had been dating for 2 months, I can't plan a business while I'm working 60-hour weeks at this place. I need space to think, to strategize, to really build something meaningful. It made sense. I had taken a similar leap when I left my agency job to go freelance. It was scary, but it had been the best decision I ever made. What if you moved in here? I said. The words came out before I had really thought them through. I mean, if you want to. We could split expenses and you could focus on your business without worrying about rent at 2 different places. His face lit up. Are you serious? That would be incredible, but I can't ask you to do that. You're not asking, I'm offering. He kissed me then, soft and grateful. I love how supportive you are. Most people would think it's too fast, but you get it. You understand that sometimes you have to take risks for the right reasons. I felt mature and adventurous and deeply in love. Moving in together after 2 months was fast, but everything about our relationship had moved quickly. Why should living together be different? My friends were more cautious. Becca wrinkled her nose when I told her. 2 months? That's pretty soon to be making major decisions. When you know, I said, repeating something he had said to me the night before. What's his timeline for the business launch? She asked. I realized I didn't have a clear answer. He's still figuring out the details. These things take time to do right. Just be careful, Becca said. Make sure you're not taking on all the financial responsibility while he gets his feet under him. But I wasn't worried about money. I was doing well with my freelance work, and my apartment was already affordable for one person. Adding his presence wouldn't change my fixed costs much, and once his business took off, we would be partners in everything. The move-in happened fast. He gave his landlord notice and was at my place with boxes within 2 weeks. It felt exciting and domestic and grown up. We rearranged furniture to make space for his things. We grocery shopped together and debated brands of coffee. We fell asleep cuddled together every night and woke up in the same bed every morning. For the first few weeks, it was everything I had hoped for. He made coffee while I worked in the mornings. He picked up groceries when I was busy with client deadlines. He cooked dinner sometimes, simple pasta dishes that we ate while watching Netflix on the couch. This is nice, he said one evening, his arm around me as we finished a bottle of wine. I never lived with anyone before, but this feels right. I agreed. It did feel right. Natural and easy and like we were building something real together. The business planning seemed to be going well. He spent hours on his laptop, researching market trends and reaching out to potential clients. He talked about meeting with a lawyer to set up the LLC and looking into business loans. When I asked for details, he said he was still in the early stages, but things were promising. I don't want to jinx it by talking about it too much, he explained, but I think this could really be something big. I respected his caution. I knew how vulnerable new business ideas could feel, and I didn't want to pressure him to share more than he was comfortable with. What I didn't realize was that there was nothing to share. No business plan, no client meetings, no lawyer consultations. Just a masterful performance designed to keep me from asking the obvious question. If he wasn't working and wasn't bringing in money, how exactly was he planning to contribute to our shared life? But that realization was still weeks away. In those early days days of living together, I was still the supportive girlfriend helping her ambitious boyfriend chase his dreams. I was still the woman who had found love and partnership and a future worth building. I was still completely blind to the trap I had walked into. The first month of living together was mostly smooth, but by week 6, cracks started showing. It began with small things. He stopped making coffee in the mornings, saying he preferred to sleep in while I worked. The groceries he had occasionally picked up became my responsibility entirely. When I mentioned it, he said his focus needed to be on business development, not errands. I'm at a critical stage right now, he explained. Every hour I spend on random tasks is an hour I'm not building our future. Our future. The phrase always made me pause my complaints, because wasn't that what we were working toward? A partnership where we both contributed what we could? The cooking stopped next. He said takeout was easier while he was so busy with planning. When I suggested we meal prep together on Sundays, he said he didn't want to commit to a schedule that might interfere with potential client calls. You're so much better at cooking anyway, he said. I'd just slow you down. I started making dinner for 2 every night. It wasn't a big deal, I told myself. I liked cooking, and he was grateful for it. He always complimented the meals and helped with dishes afterward. Sometimes, the dish helping became sporadic too. He would start loading the dishwasher, then get distracted by a text or an idea for his business. He would leave everything half done and promise to finish later. Later never came. I'm sorry, babe, he said when I brought it up. My brain is just so focused on this project right now. You know how it is when you're in a creative flow. I did know. When I was deep into a design project, everything else faded into background noise. I tried to be understanding, but the creative flow seemed to be permanent, and it only applied to household responsibilities, never to things he wanted to do. He still had time to play video games for hours. He still met up with friends for drinks. He still spent entire afternoons watching Netflix while I worked at my desk 10 feet away. When I mentioned the discrepancy, he got defensive. I can't be productive 24/7, he said. Everyone needs downtime. You work all day and then expect me to immediately jump into chores? That's not realistic. The way he said it made me feel demanding and unreasonable. Maybe I was expecting too much. Maybe I was being the type of person who couldn't let their partner have any relaxation time. The money conversations were worse. 2 months in, I realized I had been paying for everything. Rent, utilities, groceries, restaurants, even the streaming services he watched all day. When I brought up splitting expenses, he said his business wasn't generating income yet. I'm not making any money right now, he said. You know that. I'm investing my time instead of earning, which is a sacrifice for both of us. I get that, I said. But you must have some savings from your job, right? Maybe you could cover groceries while you're getting started? His face changed. Are you seriously asking me to drain my emergency fund for day-to-day expenses? That money is for emergencies? What if something happens and we need it? We, like his emergency fund was somehow our safety net, but my daily expenses were my problem alone. I'm not asking you to drain anything, I said. Just contribute something while you're living here. I am contributing. I'm building a business that will benefit both of us. But if you're going to nickel and dime me over groceries, maybe we need to talk about whether this living situation is working. The threat was subtle but clear. If I pushed too hard about money, I might lose him entirely. And I loved him. I wanted the relationship to work, so I backed down. No, it's fine, I said. I just wanted to make sure we were on the same page about expectations. We are, he said, softening his tone. I appreciate everything you're doing to support us while I get this off the ground. Once the business is running, everything will be different. I held on to that promise. Once the business was running, everything would be different. But the business never seemed to make progress. When I asked about client meetings, he said most of his work was research and relationship building. When I asked about the lawyer consultation, he said he was still deciding which firm to use. When I asked about timelines, he said he didn't want to rush into something that wasn't perfect. Good business planning takes time, he said. I'm not going to half-ass this just to make you feel better about the timeline. 3 months in, I started feeling like a roommate who happened to sleep in the same bed as the person I was supporting. He contributed nothing financially and less domestically. Meanwhile, my workload had increased because I was supporting 2 people instead of 1. When I had a particularly stressful week with client deadlines, I asked if he could handle dinner and grocery shopping so I could focus. I'm slammed with business stuff right now, he said. Can't you just order pizza? I've been ordering pizza for 3 days already. I need real food. Then make real food. I don't know what you want me to say. The casual dismissal stung. I want you to help me. We live together. We're supposed to be partners. We are partners. But that doesn't mean we have to do everything exactly 50-50 every single day. Some days you do more, some days I do more. It evens out. Except it never evened out. I was always the one doing more. When I tried to explain this, he turned it around on me. You're keeping score, he said. That's not healthy in a relationship. You're turning everything into a transaction instead of just being supportive. I am being supportive. I'm paying for everything and doing all the household management. What more support do you want? I want a girlfriend who believes in me, not one who's constantly questioning whether I'm pulling my weight. Do you think I'm lazy? Do you think I'm taking advantage of you? The direct question caught me off guard. Because yes, sometimes I did think he was taking advantage of me, but saying that felt cruel and relationship ending. No, I said. I just feel overwhelmed sometimes. Then we need to work on that. Maybe you're taking on too much because you can't let go of control. Maybe you're creating stress for yourself that doesn't need to exist. Somehow the conversation that started with me asking for help ended with me being the problem. I was too controlling, too demanding, too focused on fairness instead of love. I started questioning myself constantly. Was I being unreasonable? Was I expecting too much? Was I turning into one of those people who couldn't just let their partner exist without criticism? The self-doubt made me quieter about my frustrations. When he left dishes in the sink for days, I just washed them without comment. When he finished the last of something without replacing it, I added it to my shopping list. When he made plans with friends but couldn't commit to helping me with anything that required advanced planning, I stopped asking. It was easier than fighting, easier than feeling like the nagging girlfriend who couldn't appreciate what she had. But the resentment built anyway. I found myself irritated by everything he did. The way he left clothes everywhere. The way he acted like my work wasn't real work because I did it from home. The way he talked about our future while contributing nothing to our present. 4 months in, I was exhausted. I felt like a single person with a dependent, not a woman in a partnership. When Becca asked how things were going, I found myself making excuses. He's really focused on his business right now, I said. It's temporary. How temporary? She asked. It's been months. These things take time. I can't expect him to build something overnight. But you can expect him to help with groceries and dishes while he's building it. The conversation made me defensive. Not everyone shows love the same way. He's working toward our future. What future? What's his actual business plan? What's his timeline? deadline? What's his backup plan if it doesn't work? I realized I didn't have answers to any of those questions. Whenever I asked for specifics, he deflected or got irritated about my lack of faith in him. I don't need to micromanage his process, I told Becca. You're not micromanaging. You're asking basic questions that any supportive partner would ask. But her words felt like criticism of my relationship, and I changed the subject. That weekend, I tried to bring up the business plan again. Gently, supportively, in a way that couldn't be interpreted as nagging. I was thinking, I said while we ate dinner I had made with groceries I had bought, maybe I could help with your business planning. I have experience with branding and marketing materials. I don't need help with that stuff yet, he said. I'm still working on the foundation. What kind of foundation? Market research, competitive analysis, you know, the groundwork. That sounds interesting. What have you learned so far? He gave me a look that suggested I was being intrusive. It's complicated. I don't want to bore you with all the details. You wouldn't be boring me. I'm interested in what you're working on. Look, I appreciate the support, but I need to figure this out on my own. Too many cooks in the kitchen, you know? I nodded, but something felt off. If he was really working on a business, wouldn't he want to share at least some details with his girlfriend? Wouldn't he be excited to talk about his progress and ideas? Instead, he seemed almost secretive about it, like there was nothing to share because nothing was actually happening. But I pushed the thought away. I was being paranoid and unsupportive. He was probably just protecting his ideas until they were more developed. Some people were private about their work. The breaking point came during month 5. I had been working on a huge project for a new client, pulling long hours to meet their deadline. The apartment was a mess. We had no groceries, and I was surviving on coffee and whatever takeout I could get delivered. On Friday, after I finally submitted the project, I looked around the apartment and felt overwhelmed. Dishes were piled in the sink. Laundry was overflowing the hamper. The bathroom needed cleaning. The fridge was empty except for condiments and leftover Chinese food from 3 days ago. I need to clean this place up this weekend, I said, more to myself than to him. He looked up from his laptop. Sounds like a plan. Want to help? We could knock it out together and then actually enjoy the rest of the weekend. I can't this weekend. I have some important business calls scheduled. On Saturday. On Sunday. Important business calls that would prevent him from doing any cleaning or grocery shopping or laundry. What about after the calls? I asked. I don't know how long they'll take. I don't want to commit to something and then have to bail. I spent the entire weekend cleaning the apartment and restocking the kitchen while he took mysterious business calls in the bedroom with the door closed. When I asked about the calls later, he was vague about who he had spoken to and what they had discussed. Just potential clients, he said. Nothing concrete yet. 5 months of nothing concrete. 5 months of mysterious work that never produced results or income or even detailed explanations. 5 months of me supporting us both while he pursued a dream that was starting to feel imaginary. That night, lying in bed next to him, I admitted to myself what I had been avoiding for weeks. I was being used. The thought was crystal clear and impossible to ignore. I was providing free housing, free food, and free domestic labor to someone who gave me nothing in return except promises about a future that might not exist. But admitting it and doing something about it were different things. Because if I was wrong, if he really was building something and I just wasn't seeing it, then I was about to destroy a relationship over my own insecurity and impatience. And if I was right, then I had to face the fact that the man I loved had been lying to me for months. Either way, I wasn't sure I was ready for the truth. The truth found me anyway. It was a Tuesday morning in early October. He had left his phone on the kitchen counter while he showered, and it kept buzzing with notifications. I wasn't planning to look at it, but the screen lit up with each message, and I could see it was from someone named Connor. The preview text made me pause. Dude, you've got it made. Free place, free food. My stomach dropped. I stood there for a full minute, listening to the shower run, debating whether to look. Part of me knew that reading his messages would cross a line. Part of me already knew what I would find. I picked up the phone. The message thread was worse than I could have imagined. Months of conversations where my boyfriend bragged about his setup to his friend. Months of him describing me like I was a mark in some elaborate con. She thinks we're building something together. It's perfect, he had written just 3 days earlier. How long can you keep this going? Connor had asked. As long as I want. She's completely hooked. Keeps talking about our future and how relationships require sacrifice. I just nod and agree. I screenshot everything with shaking hands. Message after message of him laughing about how easy I was to manipulate. How I did all the work while he reaped all the benefits. How I actually apologized to him when I asked for basic partnership. The trick is to make everything seem like it's for the relationship, he had written. I told her living together would make us stronger. Now she pays for everything and I don't lift a finger. There was a whole conversation about my credit card. How he had been using it for weeks without asking. How I left it accessible because I trusted him. How he ordered food and charged small purchases that I probably wouldn't notice immediately. She's at work, so I'm ordering takeout on her credit card. She left it on the counter like always. This is the life, man. The shower was still running. I kept reading, each message making me feel sicker. Connor had asked about his job search, and my boyfriend's response was brutal. Why would I look for a job? I've got the perfect setup here. Free rent, free food, free maid service. She even does my laundry. What if she figures it out? She won't. She's too worried about being the perfect girlfriend. Anytime I feel like she's getting suspicious, I just tell her she's being unsupportive or unreasonable. Works every time. I found the conversation from 2 weeks ago when I had asked about contributing to groceries. He had immediately texted Connor about it. She's starting to get antsy about money. Time to pull out the emergency fund excuse again. That's still working? Like a charm. I act like she's asking me to risk our future security, and she backs down immediately. She's so afraid of being the demanding girlfriend. The shower turned off. I quickly sent myself the screenshots and deleted the evidence from his phone, then placed it back exactly where he had left it. When he came out of the bathroom, towel around his waist and hair dripping, I was sitting at the kitchen table with my laptop open like I was working. Morning, babe, he said, kissing the top of my head. You're up early. Client deadline, I managed to say. He grabbed his phone and checked it, scrolling through the messages I had just read. Connor's being an idiot about something, he said. Guys are so dramatic. The casual lie made my skin crawl. I nodded and pretended to focus on my screen. For the rest of the day, I sat with the evidence like it was radioactive. The screenshots on my phone proved everything I had suspected but been afraid to believe. This wasn't a relationship. It wasn't even a friendship. It was a calculated exploitation. But I needed more than text messages. If I was going to confront him, I needed to understand the full scope of what he had been doing. That evening, while he was in the living room watching Netflix, I went through my credit card statements online. What I found made me nauseous. Charges I didn't remember making. Food delivery orders while I was at work meetings. Purchases from stores I hadn't been to. Small amounts, spread out over months, designed to fly under my radar. He had been stealing from me for 4 months. I calculated the total and felt dizzy. It wasn't enough to ruin me financially, but it was enough to show a clear pattern of theft. theft. Money he had taken while looking me in the eye and claiming he couldn't afford to contribute anything. The next day, I started paying attention to everything differently. When he said he was on a business call, I listened from the kitchen. What I heard was him playing video games and talking to friends, not discussing anything work-related. When he claimed to be researching market trends, I noticed he was actually browsing social media and watching YouTube videos. When he said he was too stressed about his business to help with household tasks, I watched him spend 3 hours playing online games without a care in the world. Everything was a lie. Every excuse, every deflection, every guilt trip about my lack of support, all of it designed to maintain his free ride. I started documenting everything, not just the big lies, but the small ones too. The way he claimed to be busy when I needed help, but was always available for things he wanted to do. The way he talked about our future while contributing nothing to our present. The way he made me feel guilty for expecting basic adult responsibility from him. On Thursday, I found more evidence by accident. I was looking for a charging cable in the bedroom and opened his laptop to see if he had one plugged in. The screen was still logged into his email. I shouldn't have looked, but I did. His email confirmed what the text messages had suggested. There was no business, no client consultations, no lawyer meetings, no market research. His sent folder was mostly personal emails and online shopping confirmations. Purchases made with money that wasn't his. There were emails to friends bragging about his situation. An email to his brother describing me as the perfect roommate who pays for everything and asks for nothing. An email to a college friend saying he was living the dream and might never have to work again. The most damning email was to Connor from a month ago. I'm thinking about how long I can stretch this out. She's starting to get a little suspicious about the business thing, but I think I can keep her distracted for a while longer. Maybe I'll start talking about marriage or something. That usually gets women focused on the future instead of the present. Marriage! He was planning to use the promise of marriage to string me along even longer. I closed the laptop and sat on the bed, surrounded by evidence of systematic deception. This wasn't a case of a partner going through a rough patch or struggling to find direction. This was a predator who had identified me as a target and executed a plan to exploit my kindness and love. But the evidence I had gathered told a clear story that couldn't be dismissed or explained away. Text messages where he bragged about using me. Credit card charges he had made without permission. Emails where he laughed about deceiving me. A complete absence of any actual business activity despite months of claims. I spent Friday building my case like I was preparing for court. I organized the screenshots chronologically. I highlighted the credit card charges. I made notes about the lies I had caught him in. I wanted everything documented so that when I confronted him, he couldn't gaslight me into doubting what I had seen. The evidence was overwhelming. For months, he had been running a con game on someone who loved him. He had taken my trust, my money, my domestic labor, and my emotional support while giving nothing back except lies and manipulation. But having proof and knowing what to do with it were different things. Confronting him meant acknowledging that the relationship I thought I was in had never existed. It meant accepting that I had been living with someone who saw me as a resource to be exploited, not a person to be loved. It meant admitting that everything I had defended to my friends, everything I had convinced myself was normal relationship compromise, had actually been abuse. The word felt too strong at first. Abuse was physical violence, wasn't it? But as I sat with the evidence, I realized that what he had done to me was absolutely a form of abuse. Financial abuse. Emotional abuse. He had systematically undermined my sense of reality and fairness to maintain his exploitation of me. On Saturday morning, I made copies of everything. Digital backups, printed screenshots, highlighted credit card statements. If he tried to delete evidence or claim I was making things up, I would have proof that couldn't be disputed. I also started thinking about logistics. This was my apartment, my lease, my life. He had no legal right to be here beyond my permission. When I ended this, he would have to leave. But based on the text messages, he wasn't planning to go quietly. What if she figures it out? Connor had asked. Then I'll deal with it. She's not exactly the confrontational type. And where's she going to go? This is her place, so she can't exactly storm out. He had already planned for this scenario. He expected me to be too weak or too attached to actually kick him out. He thought he could manipulate his way out of consequences just like he had manipulated his way into this situation. But he was wrong about one thing. I might not be naturally confrontational, but I was done being a victim. Sunday night, I sat in my kitchen with all the evidence spread out in front of me. Screenshots of him calling me his personal maid, credit card statements showing months of theft, emails where he bragged about never having to work again as long as he could keep me fooled. The fog that had clouded my judgment for months was completely gone. I could see everything clearly now. The pattern of manipulation, the calculated exploitation, the complete disregard for my well-being. I wasn't paranoid or demanding or unreasonable. I was being used by someone who had never loved me at all. Tomorrow, I would confront him with the evidence. Tomorrow, I would demand that he leave my apartment and my life. Tomorrow, I would find out whether he would go quietly or if I would need to escalate the situation. But tonight, for the first time in months, I felt like myself again. Clear-headed, strong, and absolutely certain that I deserved better than what I had been accepting. The truth was ugly, but it was also liberating. I finally knew exactly who I was dealing with, and I was ready to act on that knowledge. Monday evening, I waited until he was settled on the couch with his dinner. Dinner I had made with groceries I had bought. And then I sat down across from him with my phone in my hand. "We need to talk," I said. He didn't look up from the TV. "Can it wait? I'm watching something." "No, it can't wait." Something in my tone made him glance over. "What's wrong now?" "I found your text messages with Connor." The remote slipped from his hand. For just a second, his face went completely blank. Then he recovered, but not fast enough. I had seen the panic. "What are you talking about?" I held up my phone and read directly from the screenshot. "Dude, you've got it made. Free place, free food, and she even does your laundry. This chick is basically your personal maid." I looked at him. "Your response?" "I know, right? She thinks we're building something together. It's perfect." His mouth opened and closed. "You went through my phone? Is that really what you want to focus on right now? Not the fact that you've been using me for months? You had no right to invade my privacy like that. And you had no right to steal from me, lie to me, and treat me like hired help." He stood up, starting to pace. "You're taking those messages out of context. Connor was just being stupid, and I was playing along. You know how guys talk. Guys talk about their girlfriends like they're personal maids. We were joking around. It doesn't mean anything." I scrolled to another message and read it aloud. "She's so worried about being a good girlfriend that she'll do anything to make me happy. I don't even have to ask anymore. She just handles everything automatically." I looked up. "Still a joke? You're twisting everything to sound worse than it is." "Am I?" I found the message about my credit card. "She's at work, so I'm ordering takeout on her credit card. She left it on the counter like always. This is the life, man." I set the phone down. "Is that a joke too?" His face had gone red. "You're being dramatic. So I used your card a few times without asking. Couples do that. Couples do that when they discuss it. when they're actually contributing to the relationship. You've been stealing from me for months. Stealing? He laughed, but it sounded forced. That's ridiculous. We live together. We share expenses. We share expenses? When was the last time you paid for anything? Rent? Groceries? Utilities? When? I'm between jobs right now. You know that. You quit your job, and you're not looking for another one because you don't need to. You've got me paying for everything while you do nothing. That's not true. I'm working on my business. What business? The question came out sharper than I intended. Because I've seen your emails too. There is no business. There are no clients, no meetings, no research, just you lying to me every single day. He stopped pacing. You went through my email too? I went through everything, and I found months of evidence that you've been running a con on me from the beginning. A con? You're being insane. Am I? Because here's what I found. I picked up the printed screenshots from the coffee table. Text messages where you brag about never having to work as long as you can keep me fooled. Emails where you call me the perfect roommate who pays for everything and asks for nothing. Credit card charges you made without permission while I was working to support both of us. His expression shifted. The fake confusion was replaced by something colder. So what? So what if I said some things to Connor? So what if I used your card? You were fine with everything until you decided to go snooping through my private stuff. I was fine with it because I thought we were building a life together. I thought you were working towards something. I thought you cared about me. I do care about you. No, you don't. You care about what I provide for you. Free housing, free food, free housekeeping, free money. That's all I've ever been to you. He sat back down, but his posture was different now. Less defensive, more calculating. Look, maybe I got comfortable with the arrangement. Maybe I should have been more proactive about contributing. But that doesn't mean I don't care about you. More proactive? You haven't contributed anything. Not money, not labor, not even honesty. Money isn't everything in a relationship. I contribute in other ways. What ways? Name one way you've contributed to this relationship in the last month. He was quiet for a long moment. Emotional support. Companionship. Emotional support? Like when you told me I was being unreasonable for asking you to help with groceries? Like when you made me feel guilty for expecting basic partnership? You were being unreasonable. You were treating me like an employee instead of a boyfriend. I was treating you like an adult who should contribute to the household he lives in. I don't have money right now. I explained that. You have money. You have savings from your job. You just don't want to spend your money when you can spend mine. His jaw tightened. This is exactly why I didn't want to get into this with you. You're being completely irrational. Irrational? For expecting my boyfriend to be honest with me? For expecting him to contribute something to our shared life besides criticism and excuses? You're blowing this way out of proportion. I held up the phone again. I'm going to read you one more message. This one's from last month. I found the email and read slowly. I'm thinking about how long I can stretch this out. She's starting to get a little suspicious about the business thing, but I think I can keep her distracted for a while longer. Maybe I'll start talking about marriage or something. That usually gets women focused on the future instead of the present. The silence that followed was deafening. Were you planning to propose to me just to keep your free ride going? I asked. That's not. You're taking that completely out of context. What context makes that okay? What context makes it acceptable to plan to deceive me with fake promises of marriage? I wasn't planning to fake anything. I was just thinking about our future. Our future where you continue to contribute nothing while I pay for everything. Our future where we're partners and we support each other. We're not partners. Partners contribute equally. Partners are honest with each other. Partners don't steal and lie and manipulate. He stood up again, and this time his voice got louder. I never stole anything from you. I never manipulated you. You're being paranoid and controlling. I have your own words proving that you manipulated me. I have credit card statements proving that you stole from me. Those charges weren't stealing. We're in a relationship. A relationship you've been faking for months. I wasn't faking anything. Just because I vented to Connor sometimes doesn't mean I don't care about you. Vented? You bragged about using me. You laughed about deceiving me. You planned to string me along indefinitely. You're twisting everything. I'm reading your exact words. My words to Connor in private conversations that you had no right to see. Stop making this about privacy. This is about you lying to me for months. I never lied to you. Everything you've told me about your business plans was a lie. Everything you've told me about not having money was a lie. Everything you've told me about working toward our future was a lie. It wasn't all lies. What part was true? Name one thing you've told me that was actually true. He couldn't answer. He stood there, mouth opening and closing, trying to find something to say that would make this better. But there was nothing. We both knew it. I want you out, I said. What? I want you out of my apartment. Tonight. You can't just kick me out. I live here. You live here because I let you live here. This is my apartment, my lease, my name on everything. You have no legal right to be here. Where am I supposed to go? I don't care. Call Connor, go to your parents, get a hotel, figure it out. You're being ridiculous. We can work this out. There's nothing to work out. You used me. You lied to me. You stole from me. We're done. Look, I know I messed up, but we can fix this. I'll start contributing more. I'll get a job. We can make this work. No, we can't. Because you don't actually want a relationship. You want a caretaker you can sleep with. That's not true. Then why haven't you been looking for work? Why haven't you contributed anything? Why have you been bragging to your friends about how easy it is to use me? I'll change. I'll be better. You've had months to be better. Instead, you've gotten worse. Instead of working toward independence, you've been planning how to deceive me longer. Please, just give me another chance. No. I stood up and walked toward the bedroom. I'm going to pack your things. You need to be gone by tonight. He followed me. You can't do this. You can't just throw me out over some stupid messages. Watch me. I started pulling his clothes out of the closet and dumping them on the bed. He grabbed my arm. Stop. We need to talk about this like adults. I pulled away from him. Adults don't lie and steal from people they claim to love. Adults don't plan to fake marriage proposals to maintain their exploitation of others. I was never going to fake a proposal, but you thought about it. You planned it. You discussed it with Connor as a manipulation tactic. It wasn't manipulation. I grabbed a suitcase from the closet and started throwing his clothes into it. Call it whatever you want. You need to leave. This is insane. You're throwing away our whole relationship over private conversations. I'm ending a fake relationship because I found out it was fake. It wasn't fake. Then what was real about it? Your feelings for me? Because your messages suggest you see me as a convenient maid. Your contributions to our life together? Because you've contributed nothing. Your honesty? Because you've lied about everything. He sat down on the bed, suddenly looking defeated. I do care about you. No, you care about what I do for you? And now that's ending. What if I refuse to leave? I stopped packing and looked at him. Then I'll call the police and show them the evidence of you stealing from me. Your choice. His face went pale. You wouldn't do that. Try me. We stared at each other for a long moment. In his eyes, I could see him calculating, trying to figure out if he could manipulate his way out of this. But the evidence was too clear, and we both knew it. Fine, he said finally. But you're making a huge mistake. The mistake was trusting you in the first place. As I watched him pack the rest of his things, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Relief. Relief. The apartment was about to be mine again. My space, my rules, my life. No more walking on eggshells around someone who saw me as a resource instead of a person. He had one more card to play, and he played it as he was leaving. You know what? You're crazy. You're paranoid and controlling, and no wonder you're single. Good luck finding anyone else who will put up with you. I looked at him standing in my doorway with his suitcase, trying one last time to make me doubt myself. I'd rather be single forever than be with someone who sees me the way you do. He left without another word. I locked the door behind him and leaned against it, listening to his footsteps fade down the hallway. But it wasn't completely over yet. An hour after he left, my phone started buzzing. Text after text from him, cycling through anger, self-pity, and manipulation. You're making the biggest mistake of your life. I hope you're happy ruining what we had over nothing. You'll never find anyone who cares about you like I do. I was planning to propose next month. You just threw away our future. That last one almost made me laugh. He was still trying to manipulate me even after I had shown him proof of his deception. The fake proposal he had discussed with Connor as a manipulation tactic was now being presented as evidence of his genuine love. I blocked his number and deleted the messages without responding. The next morning, my apartment felt different, lighter. I walked through each room, reclaiming my space. The bathroom counter was clear of his products. The bedroom closet had actual space for my clothes. The kitchen was mine again, not cluttered with the dishes he left for me to clean. I called Becca to tell her what had happened. I knew something was off, she said after I explained everything. You seemed so stressed and defensive whenever anyone asked about him. That's not normal for you. I feel stupid for not seeing it sooner. You're not stupid. You trusted someone you loved. That's not stupidity. That's being human. Her words helped, but I still felt raw and foolish. How had I let myself be used for so long? How had I missed so many red flags? My mom came over that evening with takeout and wine. You did the right thing, she said when I showed her some of the text message screenshots. That boy was using you and you were strong enough to end it. I should have ended it months ago. Maybe, but you ended it when you were ready to see the truth. That takes courage. The hardest part was dealing with my own emotions. I had loved him, or at least I had loved the person I thought he was. Grieving the end of a relationship that had never been real was confusing and painful. But underneath the hurt was something else. Relief. For months, I had felt like I was failing at the relationship, like I couldn't make him happy no matter how much I gave. Now I understood that he was never meant to be made happy through partnership. He was meant to be served, and I had been cast in the role of unpaid servant. A week later, he tried a different approach. He showed up at my door with flowers and an apology speech. I've been thinking about everything you said, he began when I opened the door. You're right. I got comfortable and I stopped contributing, but I love you, and I want to make this work. No, I said, just hear me out. I found a job. I start Monday. I can pay you back for everything I used your credit card for. We can split all the expenses going forward. No, you're not even going to let me try to fix this? There's nothing to fix. What we had wasn't real. You told Connor that yourself. His expression shifted from pleading to frustrated. Those messages didn't mean anything. I was just venting. You were bragging about deceiving me. That's not venting. Everyone complains about their relationships sometimes. Normal people don't plan fake proposals to keep their exploitation going. I wasn't planning a fake proposal. I was thinking about our future. Your future of continuing to use me while contributing nothing. He stood there for a moment, flowers wilting in his hand. What if I really have changed? What if I really did get a job? Then good for you. You can contribute to someone else's life. You're not going to give me a second chance? You had months of chances. You chose to lie and steal instead of being honest. He left the flowers by my door. I threw them away without bringing them inside. 2 weeks later, I got a call from Connor. He had somehow gotten my number, probably from my ex. Listen, he said, I feel bad about those messages. He's really torn up about losing you. He's torn up about losing his free ride. That's not fair. He really cares about you. Did he ask you to call me? No, I just thought, maybe you two could work things out. There's nothing to work out. And if he didn't ask you to call, then you don't know the whole story. I know he made some mistakes, but everyone deserves forgiveness. Everyone deserves honesty too. Your friend spent months lying to me and stealing from me. Those aren't mistakes. They're choices. Connor was quiet for a moment. He said you were being dramatic about the money thing. He used my credit card without permission for months. That's theft, not drama. Look, maybe he messed up, but he's really struggling now. He had to move back in with his parents. Good. Maybe living with people who won't enable him will motivate him to get his life together. You're being pretty harsh, and you're being manipulated by someone who lied to his girlfriend for months. But that's your choice. I hung up and blocked Connor's number too. A month later, I was grocery shopping when I saw him in the cereal aisle. He looked different, tired, and less confident. When he saw me, he approached carefully. Hi, he said. Hi, you look good. Thanks. I wanted you to know that I really did get that job. I'm working at a marketing firm downtown. Okay. And I'm in therapy, trying to work on some things. I didn't respond. I didn't owe him praise for doing basic adult things like working and getting professional help. I know you probably don't want to hear this, he continued, but I'm sorry. I'm sorry I lied to you and used you. I'm sorry I wasn't the partner you deserved. It was the first genuine apology he had ever given me. No deflection, no minimization, no attempt to make me responsible for forgiving him. Thank you for saying that, I said. Do you think, is there any chance we could try again? I'm different now. No. Can I ask why? Because I don't trust you, and I don't love you anymore. He nodded slowly. I understand. I hope therapy helps you, I said. And I meant it. Not because I wanted him back, but because I didn't want him to do to someone else what he had done to me. He walked away and I finished my shopping in peace. 6 months later, I was in a completely different place. I had started dating someone new, slowly, carefully, with clear boundaries and honest conversations about expectations. I had learned to trust my instincts again, and to speak up when something felt wrong. My apartment was still mine, but now it felt like a home instead of a place where I provided free services. I cooked because I enjoyed it, not because someone expected it. I kept my space clean because I liked it that way, not because someone else would leave messes for me to handle. Most importantly, I had learned to recognize the difference between partnership and exploitation. Real partners contribute. Real partners are honest about their circumstances and their intentions. Real partners don't see their significant others as resources to be managed and manipulated. Looking back, I could see all the red flags I had missed or ignored. The way he had rushed the relationship timeline. The way he had isolated me from friends who asked uncomfortable questions. The way he had made me feel guilty for having reasonable expectations. But I also saw something else. My own strength. I had trusted my instincts when something felt wrong. I had gathered evidence instead of accepting gaslighting. I had confronted him with proof instead of letting him continue to deceive me. I had ended the relationship instead of accepting abuse. The experience had been painful, but it had also been educational. I knew now what healthy relationships looked like, and what I would never accept again. I knew that love without respect wasn't love at all, and that someone who truly cared about me would want to contribute to my life, not not just take from it? My ex had been wrong about one thing. I wasn't crazy or paranoid or unreasonable. I was someone who deserved honesty, partnership, and genuine care, and I would never settle for less than that again. My apartment was mine. My life was mine. My future was mine. And for the first time in months, that felt like more than enough.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and drop your favorite part in the comments. See you in the next one.